I don't want the car. I'm not a malicious person, though I do feel some joy reading this sub. First off, my dad was a great man. He was just dumb sometimes. Lol. Some background. I am one of the youngest from a very large family. My mom passed away when I was 10. My dad, bless his heart, was from the generation where the man worked and the woman took care of everything at home. When my mom passed away, the responsibility of everything at home fell to the kids. By the time I was 11, I was regularly cooking dinner for 810 people. I had a long list of chores. Truly, it was fine. I'm sure I pitied myself some because my friends didn't have these responsibilities. But I really had a great childhood. Minus the dead mom thing. When I was 16, my dad got me a car. I paid for gas with babysitting money. My dad paid for insurance and maintenance. I had to get my little sister and myself to and from school. I had to do the grocery shopping. I had to get the two of us to practices and meets. I had to run chores. I was responsible for driving her wherever she needed to go. My day consisted of getting to school, getting home, grocery store, making dinner if it was my turn, homework, practice, bed. Meets were on weekends. I never went out. I was never in trouble. I was an honors student. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was a good kid. All was well, relatively. And then, my dad got a new girlfriend. Her kids were in high school with me. She told him that if I got to have a car, I should be fully responsible for it. After all, her kids were. So my dad sat me down and said, I've decided that if you want a car, you have to pay for it. I expect you to take over payments, maintenance, and insurance. I told him I couldn't afford that. He told me I'd have to get a job. I said I had no time for a job. He told me I'd have to figure it out. So, cue malicious compliance, I guess. I went and got my keys and handed them to him. I told him I didn't want the car anymore. He was a little shocked, but I guess he thought I'd come crawling back for it soon. Lol. The next morning, my sister and I missed the bus. I had to wake him up so he could drive us to school. He was pissed. We got a ride home from school at 5:30. When dinner was supposed to be on the table, I was reading on the couch. He came home. Where is dinner? Quote. I said, oh, I didn't have a car to get to the store. I'm sure there are some leftovers you can heat up. He told me I'd have to start walking to the store. I told him I didn't have time. Finals were coming up. Didn't he care about my grades? An hour later, I told him it was time for practice. My sister and I needed a ride to and from practice. He told me to call a friend. Sorry, I can't. No one on the team lives in this town. It would be really out of the way for anyone else. He drove us. Then he picked us up, silently fuming the whole way. The next morning, oops, we missed the bus again. I had to wake him up again. Plus he had no orange juice in the morning, on account of no one going to the store. Once again, no dinner on the table. He had to drive me to the store when he got home. Once again, we needed a ride to practice. I informed him that the meet that weekend was an hour away and we had to be there at 9. That was enough for him. It was probably the most parenting he'd done in 30 years of being a father. He called me to the top of the stairs. He tossed my car keys up to me. I've decided you can have your car back. I'll pay for half of the payment and half of the insurance. You can only use it for school, practice, meets, chores, and driving your sister. I laughed, tossed the keys back and said, that's all I use it for. Anyway, I don't want the car. Sell it. 5 minutes later, he's screaming my name from the bottom of the stairs. He overhand whips the keys up the stairs. Y'all, my dad never got mad. His new deal was he'd pay for everything but gas. But I wasn't allowed any personal use of the car. I said, so, I have to pay to do chores and I get no benefit from it? No, thank you, and I tossed the keys back down the stairs. Half an hour later, he demands my presence in the living room. He calmly said he would pay for everything but gas. I'd have the use of the car when I wanted, but I had to do all the stuff I'd previously been doing without complaint until his girlfriend got into his head. He didn't phrase it like that, of course. Then he said, I hope you learned a lesson here. I did. Lol, I certainly did. I mean, you were doing all the things he should have been doing, so it's not like you were out riding or hanging with friends all the time. You were constantly running errands. Sounds like he should have paid for the car at least, since he was expecting you to do everything he should have been doing as a parent. Guess he learned his lesson. On the side, what happened with the GF and her kids? Your father was not really thinking, it seems. And the GF's kids probably has time for being social that you didn't have. Once my mom tried to take my car away for something stupid. I believe it was because I hadn't made my bed or done the dishes. So she said she was going to take my car away. My parents were divorced, so she called my dad and he said, so you realize that would mean you would have to drive her to and from school, work, and my extracurriculars. She didn't take away my car. You were pretty much running the entire household by yourself. Good for you for not giving in. WTF is up with stepparents coming in and making sweeping edicts to a household with its own well-established dynamics? The audacity. Why you have to pay for gas if you go to do chores? Grocery. Driving your sister? He has to pay all the gas for that. I hope you learned a lesson here. Geez. He still can't admit he was wrong and that he lost? That's just a shrunken ego right there. You should have held out for gas. Surprised he wasn't giving you a gas allowance anyway, given the errands. I recently bought my 19-year-old a car, but only because it was more convenient for me to not have to take him to school, etc. I pay insurance, maintenance, and we give him gas money occasionally. But I no longer have to get him to, from school, appointments, etc., and he sometimes runs errands for me. And he knows after graduation he has to get a job and take over. He finishes a 2-year tech trade school this summer. Did you ever bring it up with your father that GF's daughters should be running around, doing the shopping, and making sure GF's dinner was on the table when she got home? Or were they just spoiled children who didn't help out? Smile with horns. I understand how you're supposed to pay for gas if you don't have time for a job because you're driving your sister around and doing all that other stuff. Plus, why does he get free gas for you doing all these errands? You were a smart kid. I expect to learn someday that you are ruling the country. Well played! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. He tossed my car keys up to me. I've decided you can have your car back. I'll pay for half of the payment and half of the insurance. You can only use it for school, practice, meets, chores, and driving your sister. So let me get this straight. I have to pay for your convenience? Gee, Dad, that's awfully generous of you. That is an amazing and wonderful story. I'm so glad you got your dad to finally see all the efforts you made instead of just getting resentful. I laughed out loud at this. You were a freaking legend. In the working world, this is a fair depiction of strike action. When the terms are obviously unfair, the work stops. You choose to help the family with the needs he was unable to help with, and all you needed was the car to do it. I would say this was a wake-up call for him. How old are you now? How are you doing? How are you siblings doing? How's your father doing? I'm so invested lol. Also so sorry for your loss heartbreak. I can't even imagine losing a parent and being that responsible at such a young age. Yes. You were a good kid and I'm sure even a better person now. You did good. As tough as life was. You learned the skills. Both to work hard and to take a healthy stand. Congratulations. You rock.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.